Hi, and welcome to another episode of Piano TV, where today what we're going to talk about is a type of rhythm called an eighth note. And you've probably seen them before. They look something like this. So we're going to be getting into some music math today, so hopefully you brought your math brain. Let's get started. So before we dive headlong into the whole eighth note thing, let's review the four basic rhythms that we've learned so far first. So you've got the quarter note, which is worth, it's all going to be over here, which is worth 1 beat. You've got a half note, worth 2 beats, a dotted half note, worth 3 beats, and the whole note, which is worth 4 beats. So let's practice counting these first. So just to review some basic counting, if you remember, these get 1 beat. I'm just going to write ones underneath them because we're going to go through and count this, and then these get 2 beats, which means you have to count up to 2, hold them twice as long when you play them. And then we have our ones again, and then this one is worth 3 beats. Make sure you count up to 3. And then the final note gets 1 beat. So this is one way to count it. And what that's going to sound like, I'll do what I do with all my young and old students, is I'll clap this. So it'll go 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. So there's another way to count that involves using a time signature where I just kind of penned in here. So instead of writing down the value of each note underneath, you would count up to 4 in each bar because our 4/4 time signature is telling us that's what's going on. So that's one way to verify that every bar you're counting the right amounts of beats, because it should always add up to 4, because this gets 2 beats, this gets 2 beats, so on, etc. When you get here, remember this gets the first 3 beats, and then this last one will get the 4th beat of the measure. So how I would count this, I'll do the same thing. Don't worry if this seems childish. It's a good way to do it. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like that. So here we've got our happy little rhythm tree where you can see that some of the 3 more common notes are divided from the whole note. So whole notes are like the reference point for all other beats. And that's why they're called the whole note, because it's the whole note and everything divides from there. So that's why the half note is called a half note. It's half of a whole note. And that's why the quarter note is called that, because it's a quarter of a whole note. So this little chart just gives you a sense of what equals what. So it takes 4 quarter notes to equal 1 whole note, 2 half notes to equal 1 whole note, and so on. This is important to know because when we start learning eighth notes, you can probably figure out how much of a whole note an eighth note is. So if you guess that an eighth note gets an eighth of a whole note, you would be correct. So eighth notes are quicker. They're twice as fast as quarter notes, as you can see in this chart. So for the time it takes every quarter note to go by, 2 eighth notes will go by. And I'm going to play a little example on the piano so you can hear what I'm talking about. All right, so now for you visual learners, I will show you what's going on here. So this is a quarter note beat, nice and steady, and an eighth beat is twice as fast. So quarter beat, eighth, quarter, eighth. It's like we're doing an exercise routine or something. All right, so let's look at how to count a rhythm with eighth notes now. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna write down beats 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's no time signature here, but this is in 4/4 time, so we want to make sure we're counting up to 4. So this is going to be beat 1. Both of these eighth notes are beat 2, because 2 eighth notes equal 1 quarter note. This is beat 3. 2 eighth notes over here, beat 4. And we're going to continue forward. This gets beat 1, 2, and 3, just like usual, and this last one gets beat 4. So this is all well and good. You know, you got your music math thing going on. But we've got a couple eighth notes that are just floating in space. They don't have any counts underneath them, and that will make them very sad to not be acknowledged. So the best way to count a bar or a measure when you have eighth notes is to add another value to it. An and, which I'm just going to represent by a plus side. That gives, that divides the beat instead of 1, 2, 3, counting in quarter notes. It allows you to begin counting in eighth notes, like 1 and 2 and 3 and. It just further subdivides the beat. So I'm going to go and add an and beside every single number to complete this little math picture. And then when you count that, what that's going to sound like is this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Eighth notes can either look like this, which with the joined beam where there's like two of them as a pair, or even multiples grouped together, or they can look like this, like just solo with their little beam kind of hanging down. So there's no difference in the way you count them. They still get half a quarter beat. They mean the exact same thing. You still count them the same way. It's just this one is lonely. In order to complete our discussion on eighth notes, we also have to talk about eighth rests. So let's review our basic rests first before we get into this. So you have our whole rest, which is worth 4 or 3, and it kind of looks like a hole in the ground, so a little mental trick. Then we have our half rest, which kind of looks like a hat. It kind of sounds like half rest, hat rest, yeah. And then you got the quarter rest, which I don't have an exciting way to remember, except for the fact that it itself looks very exciting because it's like a crazy little squiggle, and that gets 1 count. So here's the equivalent hierarchy of rests, just for your viewing pleasure. 2 half rests equal a whole rest, 4 quarter rests equal a whole rest, and again, you can probably guess what an eighth rest is going to mean. If you guess that an eighth rest equals an eighth of a whole rest, you would be correct. And in easier terms, here's an eighth rest right here. 2 eighth rests equals 1 quarter rest. All right, so here we have another rhythm. This one's also in 4/4. It just, again, the 4/4 isn't there, so just use your imagination. And we're gonna incorporate counting both with rests and with quarter notes and other types of beats with a little bit more of a syncopated rhythm here. So we're gonna start the same way we did with the last example. We're gonna find the first beat, which is right there, 2 eighth notes. The second beat starts here, and there's our 2 eighth notes, so there's beat 2. And this is nice and easy, beat 3 and beat 4. And then this is simple too. We got beat 1, 2, 3, and then the rest is beat 4 because that's a quarter rest. Those 2 eighth notes are the first beat. This is the same pattern as the beginning if you've been paying attention, and then this is also the same pattern as the beginning. So just like we did before as well, we don't want to leave these eighth notes hanging, so we're going to add the subdivision of an and after every number to count it more effectively. I find without the and, what you end up with is when the notes just float in outer space, it just makes it significantly harder to do, in my humble experience. And yes, I'm writing every single and. All right, so what this is gonna sound like is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's all for today's video. Hopefully it helped you with your understanding of eighth notes and 8 rests and how to count them. And you better practice it up because our next song that we do in a few days is gonna have eighth notes. So, just you're thinking ahead here. So good luck with your practice. Thank you for watching this video. If you like what you see, you can always subscribe and watch more as it works. So thanks, see you later. I'm a truck. Look at me, truck.